So what is the message and the mandate behind that?
The message is about transforming the most expensive city in the United States of America into one that's affordable.
Well, let's dig into that, because you're talking about a rent freeze, you're talking about free buses, you're talking about free childcare. Can you do that without raising taxes?
I think you can do that, and I think you have to raise taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers who make more than $1 million a year, and you do that by raising taxes by them 2%. And then you also increase the corporate tax of New York State to match that of New Jersey. So that takes us from about 7.25 to about 11.5%, which is what we see in New Jersey. These things together raise about $9 billion, which more than pays for our economic agenda.
The President Trump was watching you last night. It appears that he was watching you. And it also appears that he and other Republicans are trying to make you the poster boy of the Democratic Party. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, calls you a true extremist and a Marxist. And he says now every House Democrat incumbent and candidate will co-own Mamdani's disastrous record in the 2026 midterms. How do you respond to that?
A communist as the mayor of the largest city in the nation.
The White House hasn't reached out to congratulate me. I continue to be interested in having a conversation with President Trump on the ways in which we could work together to serve New Yorkers.
Well, I'm looking forward to showing the power of an example here in New York City, an example of what it means to not just diagnose the despair in working people's lives as the cost of living crisis, but to deliver on it. And that's the contrast between myself and President Trump. He's someone who ran an entire presidential campaign on the promise of cheaper groceries and is now, as the president, making it harder for Americans to afford those groceries by cutting SNAP benefits.
So you say you won't be intimidated. How do you stand up to it?
I think there's a number of ways. The first thing is you actually utilize the courts. You stop treating things as being law just by virtue of the fact that President Trump is saying them.
But last night you also said you wanted to reach out to New Yorkers who didn't vote for you. Probably highest on that list is Jewish New York. How do you convince those voters that your vision of New York includes them and your victory is not a threat to them?
I was on the M57 not too long ago, which is the slowest bus in New York City, 4.9 miles an hour. And I was seated next to a woman who introduced herself to me as a speech therapist. And she told me that she was Jewish, and she said that her daughter is a huge fan in phone banks from college and that she wasn't so sure. And I asked her to share, and she shared her thoughts about what it also means to be Jewish in New York City today. I told her that this was unacceptable, that we were fighting for a city that didn't just protect Jewish New Yorkers, but celebrated and cherished those same New Yorkers. And I'm looking forward to being the mayor for every single person that calls the city home and showing that my job is not to remake City Hall in my image, but rather in the image of struggling New Yorkers. And that means New Yorkers will find themselves and their struggles in people who have decision-making power across
New Yorker. I'm a Jewish New Yorker. I'm a Jewish New Yorker.
I'm a Jewish New Yorker.
And I'm ranking Zohran #1. Again and again, Jews and socialists are targeted, scapegoated, and villainized by the fascist far right and their corrupt cronies.